each of you. And to ensure the workshop runs smoothly, I would like to quickly go over the rules of engagement. We want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask questions, so we will only take one question from each person who raises their hand before asking the same person twice. We welcome all of your ideas and concerns. However, please only ask direct questions and reserve any statements or promotions for after the event. Lastly, we're excited to hear all your questions, but please make sure to be courteous of each other by maintaining a respectful space and allowing everyone a chance to speak. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Trey Jimenez from the Boy Scout Troop 362 of Oklahoma to read the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Trey Jimenez. I'm a Scout from Troop 362, and I'm here to lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance. So thank you all for standing, and if you're wearing a ball cap, you can please move. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Wonderful job, Trey. Let's give him a round of applause for Let's give him a round of applause. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jeff Campbell. He is a San Diego County real estate broker who has sold nearly every zip code over the past 30 years. Please join me in welcoming the past president of PSER, California Association of Realtor Issues Chair, and team lead of the campaign, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Alejandra. It's a pleasure to be here today, this evening. It's a pleasure to see each and every one of you here. As a representative of the Pacific Southwest Association of Realtors, our trade organization group of over 3,000 realtors, one of 3 associations in San Diego County, our commitment is to the housing for all types of housing. Yes, that includes rental housing, owned property housing. Tonight we're going to talk about those opportunities which can afford you the ability to purchase your next home. The next home might be your first home. It might be the first home in quite some time. So our commitment here is to each one of you to see that you have the opportunities that are out there for you. At this time, I would like to introduce to you our supervisor for San Diego County. Doing his work, you can clap during the whole time, that's fine. Doing his work, he's been a long-time grassroots advocate for issues important to local businesses and their families. He served East County of San Diego in the California State Assembly from 2007 to 2009, and later he was our senator from 2010 to 2018. Prior to that, he contributed his time and leadership on the Padre Dam Municipal Water District and Resource Conservation District of Greater San Diego Board of Directors. And I think even before that, he was an appraiser. Knee deep in housing. If any public servant knows as much or more about housing than this gentleman, I challenge them to stand before us. This man is committed. He has served all the ranges in public service, and he is here before you today to share with you the opportunities that he and his 150 interns and his entire staff work tirelessly to help you. Please help me welcome Supervisor Joel Anderson.
I hope my speech is shorter than that introduction. Thank you. My mom, if still alive, would have loved it. I just want to give you a little background. When I first got elected, we partnered with PSAR, and we did a huge outreach, and we got people in the room. And the first year we did it, 3 people who didn't realize that qualified for a loan were able to purchase their first home. So that's why day, walking you through how to be qualified, how to move forward, how to get this done. And I believe that homeownership offers generational wealth, and it's the best thing that we have here in the United States. So with that, since everybody's been introduced, I'm not going to reintroduce them, but we have experts here to share with you. When the program's done, if you wouldn't mind giving us feedback. Each year, somebody will give us feedback, and we take it to heart, and we try to change and make it better for the next year. Thank you all for being here. Hopefully, before the clock strikes midnight, you get you on a path to get into your first home. Thank you.
All right, I've got a couple of slides that you'll see on the everything here. I'm going to hit my timer because I have a tendency, if you ask Mike and Ford back there, to speak a little bit. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to represent you. Let's think of it like this, my friends. Factoring in condos, townhomes, single-family properties. The median sales price in San Diego County sits at around $915,000 to $933,000, depending on statistically how you look at the median price in San Diego County. So that's a lot of money for the median price. Oh, are you going to be my slider? Okay, good. So what does that mean? What that means when I break this down as a real estate broker is that it is conceivable that if I put 10% down, I have principal and interest on that median price around $5,283. Property taxes $915, homeowners insurance $125. By the way, that's easy. That would be for like the condo where there's already insurance overlay on that. But it's usually going to be more. Private mortgage insurance, total estimated payment $6,666 for somebody buying a medium price home. Come on, are you kidding me? How is that affordable? Unless you are working for Jeff Bezos and you're number 2 on the list or something, and you're just making crazy money. That is very difficult. What are the income requirements for that? And by the way, I'm going to get off the median price in just a moment, but I want to put this into perspective. If there's a conservative lender and they want, they'll talk about a 28% ratio, and Glenn will talk a little bit about this either before or afterwards, the front and back end ratios. You need to make $285,000 a year. Median price in San Diego County. If it was a moderate lender on the ratios and they want 36%, they would be looking at a monthly gross that you need to make is $18,517, and it looks to be that you have to pay $222,000 a year. Crazy. Well, we have good news for you today. First of all, we're talking about entry-level housing. We'll get into that as our speakers come in and share with us, right? But that's a watermark. And we'll look at that in San Diego County. I had fun today because I went in and hot off the press, and I pulled this before I came here. What's the lowest price? Oh, my time's up. Lowest price property. Manufactured home, 2 bedrooms. Anybody think it's under $50,000? Raise your hand. Manufactured home under $40,000. The least expensive is $27,950 for a 2-bedroom manufactured home. It's a little bit of a commute. It's in Warner Springs. with a $650 a month rent on that. Least expensive condo. I pulled this up just before I came in all of San Diego County. Anybody think it's under 300,000? Raise your hand. 204,000. Least expensive, the least expensive condo. San Diego County. $469 a month HOA fees, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Come on, Jeff. I want a house. What's the least expensive house? It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath in San Diego County. No HOA fees, $315,000. I know it's in Boulevard, it's a little bit of a commute. But that's kind of the picture of how all housing is when we get away from the urban areas, we find that the price points change. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about these sorts of things. I want to share with you a story of a 22-year-old who bought their first home. This 22-year-old did not have credit. Didn't make enough money to qualify for a loan. Didn't have over $2,000 for a down payment. However, they wanted a home. Wanted a home so badly. We could feel it, taste it, touch it, dream it, wake up every morning, I want a home. This person found a buddy to go in on it with him. Hey, let's buy a home. He found a realtor. We found a home with 2 bedrooms and another 2 to rent out. To kind of help him, chip away at the monthly payment. They found a home where the owner would be the bank and collect payments over time. The considerations were they had more money when they brought somebody in with them. Buddy, they pooled their resources. The interest rate at the time was 13.75% interest. Yeah, we say, oh my God, 6 and 5/8. It's been a lot higher. But to be fair, so were the prices. The prices were lower. In finishing this story, this person, this 22-year-old, was me. And when I went and bought my first home, I could see it, feel it, taste it, touch it, I wanted it. And I was going to do it. I challenged in my mind and to the universe anything to stand in my way. So I made it happen. I'm kind of excited because we have some people here today to present who are going to help make that dream a reality. I have my next, that's perfect. Those are all the slides I have. It's beautiful. What you saw before on the slide deck was the housing escalator. We don't get that palace, that big house on the hill until we start somewhere, right? All right. And once you get on the escalator, then you can go up the escalator. Sometimes the hardest part is getting on it, right? So this I put together, which is the negotiation ladder of strength. And really what this is this talks about first, second, third steps in order to get to your final destination. Contracting a broker, having as good of a credit picture as you can. We'll have speakers talk about that. Identifying the property, being pre-approved with a lender well ahead of time, and then putting in a strong offer. So, I want to talk about the strong offer. That strong offer, the average is 3 to 5 offers that a first-time homebuyer will put in. That includes 3 to 5 on the same property, known as counter offers. Right? Hey, I'll give you this, no, I want this, I'll give you this, no, I want this. So when we're not surprised, we actually navigate with confidence and comfort. Oh yeah, I understand that, I've heard that. Yeah, that's the way it is. All right, I'll work with it. So that's a reality. In closing, in my remarks, I want to be that person who empowers others to do what it takes legally and ethically to make all of your dreams as achievable as possible. Some of it we don't get, but when it comes to housing, you can do it. There are various ways. There are affordable properties. And by the way, you don't have to go all the way out to the deserts. I ran all of San Diego County, which includes going beyond Boulevard, right? And going up to Riverside, all the way to the border and all of our San Diego County. In the back, if you like, is a list of the most affordable condos on one sheet, the most affordable manufactured homes on another, and the most affordable single-family homes. There's the whole list. All the addresses are there, and they are the least expensive. Although my name is on it, I don't ask you to call me or hire me. That's my phone number's on it, but go to a person that you know and you trust that you're recommended to when it comes to a real estate broker. It is my pleasure to be here to represent our entire association of over 3,000 realtors. So you, as a matter of fact, I'm kind of that person that says, hey, don't go with me. In the spirit of really wanting to be fair and equitable to those people that you already know and trust. Realtors are wonderful people to interview. You want to interview a couple of them. But make sure that you grab one of those flyers in the back that has all of that. And I will afterwards take any questions as well as our other panelists at the end. And so with that, I conclude my presentation and I thank you. I would now like to introduce the gentleman, Glenn Warren. He's Vice President of Mortgage Lending VP of Mortgage Lending with Rate 1 of he's one of the leading mortgage banking companies actually in the country. They are. Okay, so you get to hear from somebody at one of the top lending companies. He brings many years of experience in the mortgage industry, including executive leadership, overseeing statewide loan production, as well as appraisal processing, underwriting, document preparation, funding, A to Z. This guy is the guy that has to be your deck to be able to ask many of these questions. He will tell you how the entire process works. I like to think of him as a animal. He'll walk you through everything. So if you'd be so kind as to give a round of applause for our guest speaker, Mr. Joel Anderson.
Thank you for taking your time during dinner hours. I appreciate it. And I wanted to thank Joel Anderson for putting this all together and all of this all here. Just thank Jeff for the presentation we just made, and for everybody, for George who helped Joel put this together. And it's been it's really fantastic that everybody is getting together. There's one reason that we're doing this. Most of us are involved in the business, and so we do make our livelihood in this business, but we're not really presenting ourselves, we're giving you information so that you can become homeowners. And why is it so important that people become homeowners? Well, one of the major reasons is because when you own a home, you're invested in your community. You have ownership. So why buy a home? If you look at there, I kind of have cheater when I have these notes that I put together. And basically, you buy a home to build equity over time. It's a place to house your family, to raise your children, to basically grow something that you own, that you can take pride in. It's an asset that appreciates over time when you build equity and wealth. You have predictable housing costs. You know what if you're renting right now, you're facing rent increases on a regular basis, I'm sure. When you buy a home, you know what your next month's payment and next year's payment. Stability, tax advantages. A lot of people don't really consider the wonderful tax advantages. And I know that we have another speaker here that will cover some of those. Some of the tax advantages are you can deduct mortgage interest. If you're going IRS, you can deduct mortgage interest. You can deduct property taxes, mortgage insurance. You can deduct property taxes, capital gains. This is a big one. So when you own a home and you build equity over time through appreciation and through paying it down through regular mortgage payment, you actually build wealth. And then at some point in the future, you might sell this home. Well, when you sell this home, you can get a tax rate on those capital gains. So for an individual, you can actually make, if you have enough equity, you can make $250,000 and not pay tax. If you're a couple, then each individual can get an additional $250,000. So $500,000 without having to pay taxes on it. That's really incredible. And there's many homeowners here that have done so and that have profited. So that's something that you want to consider. Long-term investment, we pretty much went through that. Next slide, please. So rent versus own. Sometimes renting makes no sense, right? If you're in the military, sometimes you're going to be moved around station to station. If you're with a company, that you're going to be transferred to various areas. That might make more sense that you rent. It could. It could make sense that you're going to buy. Because when you buy, you basically start building in. Sometimes people delay that buying process and they miss out on gains, appreciation. Because you can buy and then when you move, you rent that out. And then you have that income from that property. There are responsibilities for ownership, of course. You got to maintain. You got to make sure that the plants are watered. You have to make sure that you're taking care of the paint. You have to make sure that you're doing various things. But you have to maintain the property. You have to pay your taxes. You have to pay your mortgage. Next slide. So there's different loan types for everybody. And Hector will be going through some different programs as well that might prove very valuable to all of you. So conventional loans. So conventional loans are basically done through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're government-sponsored entities, and they do for gold and mortgages. But there's also FHA loans. FHA loans are great if you might have some challenges with credit, or you need a little bit higher debt ratio. And I'll talk to you about debt ratios in a little bit. But it's not always the most optimal type of product to get if you're a vet. Any vets in there? Okay. VA loans are great. USDA loans. This is 100% loan. You don't have to put anything down. The only thing you have is closing costs, and it's not that significant. And so USDA loans is based on area. So it has to be in, like Alpine is a USDA approved area. Anything east of Alpine, Ramona is USDA. So it's a great loan, and the interest rates are the lowest interest rates there are. So if you're looking out in the Alpine area, you find a property you really like, USDA could very well be the product which is not popular. Choosing the right loan, basically, again, Tech will be covering several down payment assistance programs. So there's a lot of different things that are available. Next page, please. And so let's just go over credit. So there's a lot of companies that will have overlays for credit. They set the bar really high. They might down payment, myth. People believe that you have to have 20% to come in with a down payment. I don't know why that myth still exists, but it does. So there's many, many different programs. For instance, FHA with as little as 3.5% down. VA is 0 down. USDA is 0 down. You have conventional loans that you can put as little as 3% down. You have again, Hector will be going over the different down payment assistance programs that you can add on to that so that you can get in with little to no money out of those. And then the only problem, again, there are some down payment assistance programs where they're participatory loans, where they participate in equity. And so that might not increase your payment. And there's also grants that you do not have to repay, so that will help improve your mortgage payment. But generally speaking, the less you put down, the higher your mortgage payment will be. So you want to consider it. Pre-approvals. This is a really critical part. Now, some people would want to come to a lender first to get pre-approved, then go to a realtor. I do recommend that you do talk to a realtor first, because your realtor is going to work with you and try to give you options of lenders that will take care of you based on your circumstances. So sometimes you want to go and talk to a realtor first, just to get some ideas. And then you go through the pre-approval process, and the lender is going to help you understand what we can get you, what you can afford, the maximum level, and then let you decide whether you want to invest, how much you want to pay per month. Because that's really the big question is, how much is affordable to you? The importance of the pre-approval, the benefits is basically it gives you a clarity on price. It gives you the ability to make an offer with confidence. Because a lot of sellers won't even look at your offer unless you have a pre-approval that accompanies it. And it sometimes strengthens your offer. Well, all the time it strengthens your offer. And basically, the one thing that you want to do when you're shopping is make sure that you're not making any changes at all. Don't move money around. Don't go out and buy a new car. Don't go out and make any large purchases. Don't. And talk with a good lender that can help you be creative and help you to really structure things. Don't make any job changes. And that really messes up a lot of transactions. So you really want to avoid that. Okay, great. So basically, during the so has anybody heard of escrow? Yeah. Okay, so escrow. So basically, you have the realtor, you have the lender, you have the escrow. And escrow is like the third party that takes care of all the wants and desires of the buyers and sellers, the lenders, the insurance companies, the agents, everybody. They coordinate everything. So basically, you go from the realtor to the lender. To get you pre-approved, you make the offer. The offer is accepted. It goes into what's called escrow, and then it goes through the whole process. And that's where some of the pain begins. And some of the pain should begin a little bit before, because one of the greatest challenges that you have is the documentation process to document your income. So that's why you want to start early in getting approved and getting all that documentation together, so that when you get to the offer table, when you make the offer, you're already approved. You're already ready to go. And so that takes the stress out of the process. Next page. Closing costs. We'll spend a little bit of time on that. Basically, the closing costs will be 2 to 5%. It's generally less than that, but 2 to 5% includes like the upfront mortgage premium and FHA, or the VA funding fee. So it's generally less. Again, I think we probably give you some more. Sometimes you can get seller grants to help you pay your closing costs, to help you pay a buy-down. And that's something that, if you have any questions on that, you can actually buy down the interest rate so it's more affordable for you for the first years of the loan. So that's something that you want to look at. And then loan estimate, which You want to look at that really carefully because that's going to determine how much is coming out of pocket, and it helps you to understand exactly what's taking place. And then in monthly payments that you're making, the monthly payments consist of course of principal and interest, property taxes, the homeowner's insurance, that's to cover you in case the property burns down or you have accidents in the property, mortgage insurance, if you're putting less than 20% down, and then HOA fees. So you want to take that into consideration. And then we can just go ahead and pass over these mistakes. And basically, I just want to cover just some last quick things. Debt ratios. So when you tell the lender what your income is, when you give them the income, make sure that you're giving them your gross income, not your net income, not what you're bringing home your checks from, your gross income. Because there's a big difference in the debt ratios. Gifts are allowed. You can get gifts from family members to help you down the process. You can have co-signers. You can have parents, relatives, friends co-sign with you. And if they co-sign with you, they don't have to go on the ownership. They just help you qualify, which is a cool thing. Income dues, we use commissions, bonus, overtime. We use like Social Security, we use military retirement pay, and then note rate. So when you are shopping with a lender, be careful when you're talking to these lenders that you look at the note rate, which is usually your mortgage payment on, and APR. Sometimes you'll notice a big spread in those numbers. If there's a big spread, that means that you're paying for that big spread. You're paying more. So when you do shop, look not only at the interest rate, but at the APR. And then ask questions about that. And then I think that's it right now. Thank you very much. Before you leave, please make sure that at the end of the evening, you stop by the tables in the back. There are some wonderful, wonderful information bits that you can take with you, as well as what you have before you with the past job. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure now to introduce to you another key component of the real estate landscape. That's insurance. Insurance has probably evolved more than any other industry that we work with in the past many years. The person that we have that is about to speak to you, Maureen Moran, she writes health insurance Medicare plans and has covered California agents. More importantly, tonight she's talking about the casualty insurance, which includes the fire insurance and all the other suite of casualty elements in real estate insurance. She's been doing this 40 years. She served her clients from the Northridge earthquake through the Cedar fire. Imagine those tragedies, and she's there holding her clients' hands, walking them through it, taking them through this. She closed her farmers insurance agency after operating at 55 years. She is the person that we're so proud of, an insurance agent, to come before you and speak. Please help me welcome Ms. Maureen Moran.
All right, it's so good to see everyone here, and I'm learning new things today. So it's a lot of information to absorb, but these are the resources you have at your disposal to create that vision of buying your first home, your second home, your move-up home. And today I'm going to talk about the insurability of these. As you know, we've had fires in California. We have a lot of properties that are surrounded by brush. We have properties in almost the middle of the city that are up against brush. And that has created an insurance crisis lot of the companies have left the state. They can no longer afford to do business here because they have to maintain a certain amount of reserves to pay for claims that can be forthcoming. So that's why the market is really tightened up, but it's starting to open up. So this, and insurance used to be, my homeowner's policy used to be $2,000 a year. Now, it's gone up, and it's gone up. And then if you add in any brush areas, or it's called high fire severity areas, you see that on the board up there, that adds an additional layer. Instead of getting just one policy, like my homeowners with USAA, you have to get a fair plan policy and another policy called difference in conditions. And those plans are great, and those plans can get expensive if you have two separate policies. The fair plan for fire and a few other perils, and the difference kind of everything else, subject to, of course, all the limitations and restrictions. So that is what determines what the fire premium will be. The fire premium is a homeowner's insurance, I'll call it fire premium for homeowners. It's also based on how large the home is. So the larger the home, the more square footage, the more it's gonna cost to rebuild. So that can add those costs. And, so that determines the premium. And then also, different insurance companies, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. I'll talk about, the next slide is that where we talk about the next one. There is, I think that whole slide. This is the one CAL FIRE puts out a brochure on every home that's sold now. They're required to do a report. The seller's required through their real estate pros to issue a report if that property is in a high fire severity zone. And that, I'm sorry, can I have that map already? So this is what it looks like in the community. This is Santee. So if you're looking at homes in Santee near Mission Trails Park, when you walk in, you can hike right into Mission Trails Park. This color in red, that's high fire severity. And the redder it is, the more expensive it is. Then you get down to the orange and the yellow, it's not as expensive. So when you're out there looking around, you might want to make sure that these communities, that you're not in that zone. I live on Baltimore and La Mesa, right across from Lake Murray. I'm on the La Mesa side. On the other side of the lake, up on that hill, it's called Del Cerro. There's all that open space, and fires have a tendency to run up the hill. It gains all that heat. And those properties are in a high fire severity zone. Monarch Ridge and Rancho San Diego, if anyone lives out in the East County, that area, a lot of those are surrounded by they're a high fire severity zone. And the zones, once you get in that zone, you can expect higher premiums. So sometimes staying a little more in the core portion of the city, within limits, based on affordability, your real estate broker can guide you with that, because they know this. We all have to take this training, we've all seen it, and it is something that you don't have to come up and bite you right when you're trying to get your loan approved, and you don't know what all your expenses could be. You have your property tax, you have your fire insurance, you have your loan payment, mortgage insurance, it can all add up. But it's totally doable, and there's people here to help you do that. Some of the other things the other things that can affect the premiums are if you're looking at a home and it has a really old roof, that's going to limit the companies that are going to take you. Also, if the electrical system is really bad, or there's certain types of electrical systems that have aluminum wiring, those can affect the insurability. And then if the older the home and the more it has not been updated, then that affects insurability. So that becomes a higher premium. But if you go into a home that can look smaller, that the owners, the sellers have maintained over the years and updated these components as they needed, that'll really help you in your purchase. The other part is if a home has had a lot of insurance claims, most common insurance claims are accidental discharging water, the flooding, the pipe burst. I'm sure you all know somebody who had that happen to, if not yourself. That affects it when the insurance companies look at that prior history. They're like, okay, what's going on here? A lot of insurance companies are requiring these little gadgets now. It's called a smart water monitor. They hook it into your plumbing. It's about $800. That price went from flying to see tomorrow because the insurance company is requiring that. It detects a water leak and it shuts off the water. Or if the water reaches a certain temperature pressure. So these are, some more of these things that you can consider in planning your dream of purchasing your property. So the other part for new buyers thinking of considering a condo, the condo complexes, most of them are over 50 years old, which is the effective age of the building, and a lot of our condos are springing leaks like fountains. So you go in there, you do a quote, and all of a sudden there's 3 water claims that show up in that complex. Maybe not that unit itself, but it can be other units in that building. So there has to be a workaround for that. There has to be more information gathered. There were also, in Santee, there was a huge condo association. Their insurance canceled them. And this Fair Plan at the time, that's the company of last resort, administered by the state of California. They had, I think it was over 200 units, and they had less than $50 million in building coverage. So that, you couldn't even sell a unit in some of these complexes. So that, that's another factor to consider about where you're going to consider purchasing. So I think do I have any other things that I attached? Well, I think that pretty much in a nutshell, I don't want to be a, Debbie Downer here, but these are the things that you have to take into consideration, and the team that you're working with will help you facilitate that. So, that being said, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen. By design, by great architectural planning, save Hector for last. And Hector Castillo is our final presenter. He is a HUD certified housing counselor and housing program manager. HUD is housing and urban development. Hector has over 25 years in the housing industry as a loan officer specializing in down payment assistance programs. Oh, this is just sounding better the more I say. He helps first-time homebuyers, manages the various capacities of the mortgage industry. He and Glenn are people that can work together to help you pull together financing. It is my pleasure to introduce the gentleman who's been in underwriting and affordable housing, Mr. Hector Castillo.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to talk about 3 things today. Everybody has on their table a couple of flyers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some timelines of what the home buying process is supposed to be, what it is, the down payment assistance programs that we offer and what they are available, state and local, and some of the myths. And I'm going to intertwine Jeff and Glenn here just to give you real life examples. And then I'm going to talk about some of the services that we have. So my name is Hector Castillo. I'm a HUD certified counselor. What that means is that I went through some classes with HUD, and I have a counseling certificate that says that if you call our office, we can talk about foreclosure, rental assistance, down payment assistance, and a lot of people call us for various issues. Sometimes I have an issue with the landlord, we'll talk about that, and maybe refer them. So there's a lot of things, but here we're going to talk about down payment assistance, the layers, and the process. So the idea is something like this. We'll go with this one, the first one, about the timelines. What usually happens is I tell people, talk to someone like Glenn, Get the information, get your documents to him. He'll give you an opinion. There's a difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. A pre-qualification is when somebody gives you their opinion on what you can buy. If you go to Glenn, we'll give you a pre-approval because they look at your documents and they say, based on your information, with a TBD address, to be determined address, this is what I think you can purchase and what your payments will be. So that's the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. And then after that, Glenn or Jeff will work with you on a property. So once you have a property identified, and like they were talking about, you're an escrow. Escrow is a third party that's sort of like a neutral party that moves all the paperwork around. When you buy a home, there's basically 5 or 6 people involved, your teams. You have the lender, you have the realtor, you have escrow, you have title, and then you have something called third-party entities, which is the appraiser, physical inspection, termite, and all those things. All those groups work together to have your documentation, to have your contract, all the negotiations done between 30, sometimes up to 45 days. Why does it take so long? It may be a couple of issues. Like Glenn was saying, some people have money. I'll give you an example. Somebody said, oh, I'm selling my 2002 Jetta for $35,000. You know, and I'm like, all right, go get a gift letter, right? Because they had money somewhere and somebody was able to help them. So there's some things that you have to and your loan officer about when you're doing this. They'll introduce you to a homeowner insurance agent. There's all these people working together towards that timeline. And they say, Hector, we just found out how expensive houses are, or apartments and condos. Well, there's something called layering. Depending on your income, there's these levels of grants that don't have to be paid back. Silent second loans, which are loans that are due on the 30th year, and then you can use for down payment. A grant can be given by a nonprofit organization. A grant can be given to you by other entities. They can be given to you by a city, a county, and so on. So what happens is you can layer your loans to be able to buy a home. I'll give you an example. We're working with a lender who bought in the city, the clients bought in the city of San Diego. The purchase was $750,000 home, but the loan amount was $629,000. How did they do that? They were able to go with the San Diego Housing Commission with a program called LIST that was a $40,000 grant, and then that grant gave them $22,000 towards the closing costs. So if you look at the chart right here, on the left-hand side is the timelines that we're looking at, and then on the right side is the types of grants and loans you can get. There's federal, and people, there's not necessarily grants from the federal government, but people think there are. Glenn mentioned that you can do a USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, or a veteran or federal that's 100% financed. You have to come up with some money, but it's 100% financed. That, layered with a couple of other items, is very minimal to no money down. FHA is a very minimal 3.5 down payment, so people think they're very low down payment assistance. After that, you have the state of California, CalHFA, California Housing Finance Agency. They do silent seconds where they can help you with the down payment and the closing costs. You do not have to make any payments unless you sell the property, you pay it back, or in 30 years, you pay that money back. Not within 30 years, you can make payments within 30 years, but after the 30th year, the idea is you've already paid off your home. So if you owe the state or the city $150,000 when your house is worth $2 million, it's not that bad. Then you have city and county governments. There's a difference between county and city. For example, the county of San Diego, where Joel is here, that's county. There's 18 cities in the county of San Diego. Chula Vista, National City, El Cajon, Palomar, Alpine, all these entities, they're cities within the county. They also have down payment assistance. And then the city of San Diego, 921 zip code, has a housing commission, which is the Department of Housing, that helps with down payment assistance. Fair? So you have those programs. Then you have the grants. We work with an agency called this, LISC, and they do a $40,000 grant if you qualify. So there's certain layers that you can have. You can purchase a home in San Diego, and Jeff will tell you, and Glenn will tell you, and Ms. Moran will tell you that the average family used to buy a condo, build some equity, sell, you have a large down payment, you buy a small house, build some equity, sell, and usually people had 3 purchases to 4 before they stopped and had their final home. What's happened lately, everybody wants that 800, or they're buying 800, but they're buying in East Lake in certain areas, so they're going for the big house, and that's why entry, first-time buyers has become a little difficult. But you can buy a home in San Diego County. Our grants, or the people they work with, are in the county of San Diego. Alpine with the USDA, El Cajon with Jeff in the city of San Diego. So it can be done. And the cost of doing business is actually researching. 3 things are going to happen. When you consider buying a home, every family member is going to give you their opinion. This is what you got to do. This is what you do. You use my God, this is what happens, right? That's 1. 2, everybody tells you, well, you know, it's too difficult right now. It's not. And then 3 is that you're like, well, I don't know if it's the right time. This is what's going to happen to most people today. Everybody calls us and they tell us, do you think we should buy? I say yes. Oh, but the interest rate is high. Property prices are high. Property prices are high. And you know what happens? When the interest rates drop, Jeff will tell you, Glenn will tell you, Ms. Moran will tell you, that you'll have multiple offers. So the same house will sell for a lot more because the rates drop. So what happens is you have more people in the marketplace. And if you notice, in San Diego, anybody who buys a house or a condo, Jeff will tell you that everybody purchased 10, 15 years ago at $400,000. That house is $800 now. Houses in San Diego County are probably not going to drop more than 10% in the next couple of years, but they will always go up for the following reasons. To the south of us, what do we have? Mexico, TJ, right? To the east of us, we have mountains. To the north of us, we have, what? The Marines, Oceanside. And then to the east of us, is it east? West, we have the ocean. So San Diego has become what's called a high-density city. People are starting to build up. So that's why property prices are not going to drop as much as your friends who are experts and family members who are experts are constantly giving you advice. So the point is this. There's layers of down payment assistance. There's programs for everybody here. If you look at this, it can be done. Page 2, and I'll talk about that right now, taxes. Page 3 is that on June 27th, we're going to have another program like this. It's an all-day program. It's free. And they talk to lenders for 6 hours. So what happens? Everybody take a look at the 1040s real quick. Let's say everybody here bought a home. And you didn't have a home now. Now that you bought a home, the tax consequences are this. You have something called write-offs. If everybody looks at the Form 1040, income taxes in the IRS in the United States are basically 2 pages. Page 1 and page 2 is a summary of your taxes. Each line is a policy, a law, a credit, a tax credit with the IRS. That's why whenever you talk to people with complicated taxes, they all have 2 pages. And then they have everything else behind it. The first 2 pages is a summary, and then the rest are the explanations and the proof to the IRS. There's also for seniors something called 1040 SR. And if you're a senior, you have specific taxes. But if you buy a house, look at the last page. Those are the write-offs for property taxes and mortgage statements. So when you buy a property, you have write-offs. When you do not have a property and you're straight W-2, there's not that many write-offs that you have. So people say, listen, my rent right now is $4,000 a month. Glenn wants me to pay $5,000, Jeff said it's a great house. And you're like, well, that's too much, it's $1,000 more. But after deductions, the following year, your payment may become less than $4,000 because you'll get money back. You get some write-offs with kids if you have a Schedule C. There's a lot of things you can do when you own a property. You can have a home office to write things off. Make sure that you talk to your CPA or tax professional, because if somebody calls my boss now and says, Hector told us to do this, it's not true. I'm just telling you that when you buy a house, there's a lot of benefits. And the biggest benefit that Jeff and Glenn spoke about is that if you buy a house now, that house will be worth 1.523 million in the next 20, 30 years. You know why? Because there's only so much land in San Diego County. So people are constantly calling us and telling us, I am going to wait another year for the rates to go up. I am going to wait another year for properties to get built. I've heard that they're going to have houses at $500,000 in Claremont. If they do, there's something called a restricted deed. You have to have a certain income, and you have to fit within a certain guideline. Right now, if you do your research and you start looking and planning, you will be surprised. Through the program that we have, we talked about that grant. In the last 3 years, we helped 109 families get into a home. This year, we're trying to help 20 families with their grants get into a home. So it is possible. So my point here is this: down payment assistance takes a little research from you, and it takes research from your loan officer, your real estate agent to get you into a property. The cost of doing business to buy a property is the research and being informed. Once you buy it, everything changes because you change everything in your life. Like Glenn was saying and Jeff was saying, once you're a property owner, then your community benefits, your kids. There's a statistic, I used to work at UC San Diego, that if a family owns a home, these statistics say that the children are 80 to 85% sure to go to the university or higher education. Because they see their parents struggle, they see their parents saying, hey, we're having a hard time, or we're doing really well right now with the property. If you have a higher education, you're going to make more money, and you're going to be able to buy your own home. As Joe, the superintendent, said, generational wealth is this. Everybody here buys a home. The house goes up for $2 million. Their parents decide to move back to the home country, to another area. They sell the home. They give each kid $300,000 as a down payment for a home. And then what happens is your $500,000, $800,000 mortgage just dropped by half. It's more affordable, and you're able to buy. That's why real estate is such an important purpose in the United States, that it allows for you to do certain things. You have a home, it goes up in equity, you need money, you need finance. It's a financial tool, not just because it's a write-off, but there's a lot of benefits. So I think everybody here who has the ability or who wants a little bit of research goes a long way. You can call us, my cards are here, the information here, we can talk you through the process. You can talk to Mr. Jeff, Mr. Glenn, they'll refer you to a good insurance agent here, they'll refer you to us, and we'll talk about it. And we'll work with a plan with you, 1 year, 2 years. We had a family that after 3 years ended up buying their first home. It can be done. And what you're starting to see is, as Glenn alluded to, you're having families living together for a while. They either one buys each other out, or they sell the property and they split the profits, and then they buy their own property again. So it is, and it can be done here. It's not as difficult as people think. Once you do the research and you don't pay all that attention to your best friends, family members, and so on, who are great advisors, who may not have a property, then you'll realize what you can do. There's going to be a lot of questions, but I'll start that 2 minutes. I could go on and on and on and on and on. I mean, there's going to be a Q&A, Jeff, so I usually leave questions and answers because that's what's important to you. If I start talking to you about how to apply to CalHAFA, what to do with the San Diego Housing Commission, that's just details. The general is, if you have any questions that are pertinent to you, we're here to answer them, and we're here to help you. That's it. I can go ahead. Go ahead. Go.
This is that wonderful time where or you can stand right there, where we can ask questions. And so the best way to do it is either raise your hand or just look at me. Somebody's that's great. And how I like to prompt some of the questions is raise your hand. All right. Okay. So, most of you. Now, here's a really interesting question. How many of you plan on acquiring, purchasing a home within the next year? Raise your hand. Now, you got to hold up line because I want everybody to look around. All right? So, the importance of this is that when we surround ourselves with those who have desires, and we do, it fuels us. Fair enough? Or inspires us to think about that. Hey, maybe I want to get help. All right. So now, because I'm not getting questions, I'm asking questions. So, what's the number one, or not number one, what's a barrier for you, and if not for you, what do you think would be a barrier from getting a home in the next couple months? You can shout it out. You're not going to raise your hand. Let me hear it. Single income. All right. That single income, that's beautiful in the reality of it. Because if the single income is not at the level where it needs to be, because we all can do the simple math that more incomes give us more opportunity, right? So yes, that's one. Go ahead and shout out another one. Availability in our price range. All right. There are thousands of properties available right now. Yes. So what? I can't afford it. All right. Fair enough. So, and what happens when there's not enough availability here in San Diego County? What do some people do? They get on PSA, and well, that's no longer around. They get on a plane and they live somewhere else, right? So we are here to be advocates that yes, you can and you can here. What's another barrier? Job security. So let's, thank you for saying that, because let's build upon that. It's not only job insecurity, also, right? But there's other insecurities. Well, when I think of that, I think that's a really great response. That also applies to renting. That applies to obligations that we have no matter what it is. So what's interesting is if we were to table or chart all of our concerns, we can actually say, you know what, this is a concern, but it really doesn't have the same relevance as some other things. Because the first thing, if I was in your seat and I was asked this, I would say, have enough dough right now. Right? Because finance is really the number one biggest bridge we must figure out how to cross over to get into a property. Right? And if you do have a regular income, you don't have to have any income if you have a couple million and you're just gonna buy out cash, sure enough. But a regular income, and then matched up with the desire, we talked about that. Income, desire, and then if our income doesn't rise to the level of it being enough, then having a second or more income to combine to then be able to do that. Here's something interesting I think about. Is it crazy to think that rents, some people pay $3,000 a month? Okay, it's a reality, right? Some people, obviously, some are less, but and I think you mentioned rents should keep going up. So let's just go to $3,000 a month. How much is that a year? $36,000. Yes, you should tax form, and I think you used to get a rent credit on tax, but I don't think anymore. And that rent credit, I think, was $70, so it wasn't that much. So Once you pay that $36,000 to rent, you know, it's gone by, and now we can do it again, but probably a little bit more. Now, here's my last name is Campbell. And somebody teased me once and said, "Oh, you got the Campbell Scramble." So I'm going to do the Campbell Scramble. It goes like this. All right. What if I had a house payment and the house payment was $5,000 a month? How much would that be a year? 60. So I'm going to pay $36,000 or $60,000. Now my lenders know where we're going with this. And Mr. Castillo, thank you. I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax person. However, I can certainly give the right questions to ask those professionals, right? I can create some list. So I'm comparing rent at $36,000, ownership at $60,000. Oh, well, that's the difference between being able to barbecue in my backyard and eating top ramen every night. And you know, I don't know if I want to make that sacrifice. I get that. However, what's so interesting is on a 30-year loan, so much of the interest is front-loaded. All right? So your payment that you're making is mostly interest, right? On a 30-year loan. What is it? So what, Jeff? What does that mean? Campbell Scramble? What does that mean? Well, what that means is when Hector brings out that tax return, that 2-pager, and it says, what did you pay in interest? All right? And you add it up, and you know, you don't have to add it up. You get a year-end statement from your lender. And it shows out of that $60,000, this much was interest. My favorite lenders was at half or more. More than, let's just go half. Okay, it is more than, yes. Wait a minute, more than half. But I paid $60,000 total, but more than half was interest. What do you get to do with interest on your tax return? Yeah, it's not a cash-on-cash equal rollout, but you're writing off something you didn't have any write-off before. You didn't get to write it off as a renter, but as a homeowner, no matter what it is, you got a loan on it, manufactured home, condo, partial ownership, full ownership, as long as you have a CPA or a tax professional walking you through it. The fact of the matter is, guess what? Man, maybe it's not as expensive. Still expensive. Let's not, mess with this. Living is expensive, right? However, check it out. Owning a home can be, depending on the area, depending on the price, depending on what you own, can be close to the same cost. I'm not saying it is, but it can be close to it. If you monitor it without ladder, your credit, and it sounds like that. Is that my timer or is that your timer, Mike? Questions? Did I inspire 1 or 2 questions? Yes.
Can you use a second unit on property or you buy some property that you use on qualified?
I love my professionals.
You can one of the units.
You can. You have to.
So you get to use 75%, so it's $1,000 that the rent is using.
Because we take 25% off the top to account for vacancy or expense back wages.
So his question is this: can we buy? Some families are buying duplexes, and the duplexes are a little expensive. But to what Glenn just said, if you live on one side, the projected rent on the other, and you're seeing a lot of this here in East County and Spring Valley. There's a lot of duplexes there that they're using the other unit rental as qualifying income. And for us in grants, you can use up to 1 to 4 units on the same lot, considered as residential, non-commercial. So you can have that, and then we'll allow for that for grants.
And you can buy a 4-unit property with FHA financing. 3% down. 3.5%. Yes.
Can you buy a one before the USDA one?
You can.
You can.
But it has to be that zip code in there. So the United States Department of Agriculture has a big map, and if you call Jeff or Glenn, they'll tell you the addresses. Sometimes it's a little crazy because you could be at this house 4515, and across the street 4518 may not be a USDA property. So it's a specific map. But like you said, if you have 4 units, and what we're starting to see in our organization is families are starting to buy together. And because it allows for 3-4 incomes to be able to qualify, and love or hate them, they're your family, but you're around. So, but they help. So to Glenn's point, we can do that. Jeff can give you an idea of what properties look like. Yes, ma'am.
For the LISC grants, is there a maximum that you can get?
It's $40,000. The most we've seen is $68,000 with the lender contribution. It's called liscsandiego.org, and it's on a scale of family members up to 120, 160 AMI. And AMI stands for average median income, and that's how the government says, okay, if you have a family of 2, if you make this money, we'll help you with this kind. If you have a family of 4 or 6, it's a scale. But it can be done. And we're, like I said, we have 109. We're trying to get 20 this year. Yes, sir. Talk about it. Sorry.
No, it's right here.
I got nothing else. Go ahead, young man. And then, over here.
So if USDA mentioned is 0% down or down payment, would you still be able to apply for an LISC grant?
If you qualify, yes. Grants have nothing to do with, remember the minimum requirement?
Yeah.
So sometimes people will use our grant, or not our grants, the list grant, as their down payment requirement. So I'll give you an example real quick, so fast. So remember the San Diego housing person I was saying about 750? So they bought a house for 750. So the San Diego Housing Commission was a loan for $135,000 to be paid on the 31st year, or in between that. They got a list grant for $40,000. And then the lender gave them another 22, so they got about 189. So they didn't have to come in with anything because the list grant, the commitment was with the city, how are you going to show 3%? It was that grant that gave it to them. So in theory, they have a $750,000 home and they're only paying on the mortgage $629.
Another thing to note on that is you can negotiate with the sellers as well, and then we can go. So you get 100% financing, negotiate with the sellers. Especially in rural areas, they're going to be more apt to negotiate those prices. And you can basically negotiate the entire sum or all of the closing costs of the transaction.
Everybody have a home with a Section 8 voucher?
So let me explain. So the question is, people who have Section 8 up to about, was it 8 years ago? Or 10? The federal government said, okay, we're going to help you, let's say, for example, $1,000 a month to pay your rent. And they allowed for you to buy a property, a home, and they would continue making that payment. And Section 8 income, because it was more for 3 years and so on, it was predictable, they would offer it. But Section 8 canceled that. So there is other areas. San Diego Housing Commission does not have the voucher program anymore. I know that other cities and other states do. Because what happens is when you buy, even though the federal government's helping you, you bought your own place. So San Diego County does not have that. Now it's out there, you'll see it, but you have to call the, when you need extra help, you have to find out who that funding source is. Like for example, the $40,000 is this, the $135,000 is the San Diego Housing Commission, the CalHAFA is at 6%. They have the Dream Home. Everybody remember that was all over the news, up to $250,000 for free. That's called shared equity, meaning that if you buy a $600,000 home, they help you with $250,000. The more you live there, the state has less money, but if you decide to sell it in 3 years, the state gets their $250,000 plus a portion of your profit. That's why some people say, hey, I don't like shared equity, but it's the cost of doing business. I have a client, when I was a lender, who was a Caltrans engineer, and he wanted to have the famous 20% down, 20% always. But what happened? His salary was this. Property prices were always going up. He always needed more. He priced himself out of the market because he did not want to take assistance. Anybody who had assistance or gets assistance, it's a benefit. It is a long-term investment. Why? Because properties are for 30 plus years unless you're buying and selling. But what you buy now brings fruit forward and forward. So if you have down payment assistance, that is the cost of doing business when you don't have the, what was it, $2 million you said that somebody had to have to buy a property. So, right.
What we're going to do is, before you leave, each one of us is going to stick around, and we're going to be at our tables back there. Come ask us more questions. There are elements we want you to go back to the tables and